This episode is sponsored by the Twindle Foundation. Learn more at www.twindlefoundation.org.
Let's talk.
So many people stay hidden due to fear. Fear of judgment, shame, or even guilt. You are not alone on your journey. Girl, you are not alone. This is a safe place. A place to be heard, a place to be free, a place to be yourself. Bring your girlfriends and let's talk about it. Yeah, let's talk about it. Hey, Charelle, how are you?
Hey, Twanja, I'm good. What's going on with you?
Hey, listen, I'm so excited to be on this podcast with you. And I see that at this time of evening, you got a lot of energy. So I better get myself together.
I'm a night owl, 110%. So I'm so glad you were willing to adapt to my requested time.
No, that's okay. Because I know what it's like to have to be flexible. I feel like I've been that way most of my life. So no, I totally understand.
Tell me about it. Yeah, that's what's up. Okay. Yeah,
well, listen,
I'm excited.
I want you to tell everyone a little bit about yourself. Tell them who you are, what you do. Just share something about yourself.
I am, I'm a big sister / mama. I'm the oldest of about 9 siblings. So my personality, a lot of what makes me who I am is very motherly. Yeah. Pretty caring person. My profession, I sell cars at a Volkswagen dealership. Never saw myself going into automotive, but it has opened so many doors for me. I've been in the industry about 5 years. Started one way, going to college and thinking I was going to major in one thing, and ended up in the automotive industry. And God has opened so many doors, and he's connected me with so many people, such as yourself. It's crazy how we even met, but I feel like I'm just getting started. I'm 36 years old, and it's like a light bulb came on for me. The past couple of years, I was just like, whoa, this is me. This is who I am. This is what I want to do. So I'm just getting started. To sum up who I am, I'm a young woman who's just getting started.
Listen, there's so much in there that I like to unpack. I want to jump back with the 9 siblings and you being the oldest, and then I want to move into the automotive industry. So listen, I felt like when you said that, you and I probably kind of like have the same spirit. Like, so I don't have as many siblings, but I'm not the second oldest, but I do have that motherly spirit, with my sisters and brothers. And so you're always kind of like looking out for them, protecting them, in their business. That would be me in their business. I need to know, like, so that I can help them make some corrections, even though I finally came to a place where, okay, I need to take my hands off of them and let them do them, you know what I'm saying? And so that they can grow and become the person that they need to be, and not what, you know what I'm saying? So, absolutely. And let them fall, get up, let God do what God needs to do. Step aside, absolutely. Sisters. This is not your job. And so I had to finally let go. And when I did, it's just like, they didn't need me all along.
Yeah. Wow. We live the same life.
Right? And now it's like, I feel like God was telling me, okay, now it's been that time, but now since you finally decided to get your hands off of it and move on with your own life, now it was time for me to shift and make those changes, because I worked in the automotive. I worked in the automotive industry for like 7 years. And I'm telling you, honestly, when I first started, we had just moved. So my sister and I moved. My sister was going to college here in the upstate, and I had moved back home at that time. And then my sister had a daughter, and she was going off to college. And so I was helping to raise my niece while my sister was going to college. And so she went off to school, and I had my niece. And eventually, like a year later, I moved. I was staying with my parents. So they were helping with my niece as well. And so I moved my niece right next door, an apartment next to the college, and my sister moved in. We moved in together. And so my sister walked to school, and I would take my niece to daycare, and then I would pick her up when my sister came out of school, take my lunch at that time, drop her off, and then go back to work or whatever. And so when I was working in the automotive industry, it was flexibility. You know what I mean? And so it was scary for me because I had never done that type of sales before.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, I kept asking my oldest sister, do you think I can do it? And she was like, yeah, I really do think you could do it. And I was just like, well, I don't know. And listen, my very first day, I'm going to tell you this horrible experience. We had this, we had just came out of training and we had this kind of road show or something like that. I hate when those dealerships would bring those type of things, people there. But there were these people that would come in and they would do all these stupid mail out flyer things to gimmicks to get people inside. I'm not going to talk trash about that. I'm just going to say it wasn't for me. But anyway, I remember I was working with this guy and I had on these boots and they were this 9 West short heel boots, nothing fancy, you know, saying it was a block heel. And I remember that guy dragged the crap out of me. I went back and forth and he was buying this little piece of junk of a car out of the buy before auction section. And, I had to take it for a test drive and you know what I'm saying? It was just, first of all, I felt uncomfortable going on a test drive with some guy in this down piece of car, you know what I'm saying? That hadn't even been cleaned out. And I don't like to go in a dirty car. But anyway, so I remember after that, about 4 hours into the day, I remember, oh my gosh, one of my foot had blisters at the bottom of it. Yeah, that thing was so hard. Girl, listen, I went home on lunch, picked my niece up, took her home, went home, bust that blister, bandage it up, wrap my foot up, and put on some flats. And I was just like, God, if I make it through the day, then I'm gonna show up tomorrow. And so my supervisor at the time, my manager, desk manager, he said, keep going. It'll be worth it. And I only made $200, but hey, I was like, all of this but you know what? It was my first sale and that made me, I had to really work for it, but then that made me just go back in there and just grind it out. But it was definitely, and kudos to you, you know, because I stayed 7 years and you're 5 years in, but kudos to you because I had quite an experience working in the automotive industry. I did. And I don't think that I would ever return. If I do it's because I'm going to own a dealership and that is all.
I know that's right. There's, I honestly, especially as a Black woman, I can't think of any other way. I say often, I'm not going to be selling cars forever. I say that often, and it's not in a negative way. No. And let me just say, I've been truly blessed to be at this particular dealership. And also this being my first experience in automotive, because all of the horror stories in the beginning, when I talked about the doors that God has opened and all the people that he's connected me to, I've heard some real life horror stories. Wow. I've heard some things that I'm like, knowing me, as sensitive as I am, I'm not as sensitive as I used to be, but I'm like, oh no, we would quit. I would be on Indeedjobs.com moments after while you're talking crazy to me. I'm typing in looking for another job. You know what I mean? But I work with a lot of millennials. I'll say this. And this is nothing against old school. It's nothing against, any foundational principles, anything like that. I just believe as things are advancing in this industry, just like any other industry, you have to know how to adapt. And I'm so grateful to be with a team of people who know how to adjust, who know how to stay ahead of the curve. Yeah. They're on top of it. And at the same time, not afraid to learn and grow. We're all learning and growing. As for myself, being able to view this thing as really my assignment. It is something that the body of Christ and the ministry that I'm a part of, just something that they teach us. Whatever you do, it's not just a job, it's your assignment. This is where God has placed you for whatever the length of the season. This is where you are. This is where you show up, and the kingdom of God should be showing up. You should be representing Christ. You should be there for a certain time, to serve a purpose. Those are the people in your garden. So all these things, I can unpack that and talk all night about that. But once I grabbed that, it wasn't just, let me just get up here and go to work every day. I started counting my blessings more, and I show up and I'm like, okay, God, who do you want me to talk to today? Yeah. Who am I pouring into today? What am I supposed to learn today? Because let me tell you, I've learned, I've grown so much in these past 5 years at this particular place, because the automotive industry is no joke.
Yeah. Oh no, absolutely not.
No joke. And I've heard just a smidgen of your story and your experience. And again, combine that with the horror stories. I'm like, yo, what?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So thankfully there's some things I've experienced and there's some things that I don't even have to go through because I'm like, you just got to tell me once. I'm like, just tell me one time. I'm gonna make sure I don't do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'll make sure I won't go through that, and I'm good. So, yeah.
I think I honestly, and I don't know, and I haven't like had a chance to speak with a lot of women because, of course, there's not a whole lot of females that work in the automotive industry. But I haven't had a chance to talk to people about their experience because I would love to know if if people had experienced the things that I have. But I'm here in the South, and I've been up north and I've visited some dealership. When I went to finance school, I went to school in New England. And
Wow.
I met some ladies that was from Boston and Connecticut and New Jersey, a couple other places or whatever, and they had all seemed to enjoy their job. Like, you know what I'm saying? They had good, they may have had some bad stories they just didn't want to talk about. And that just made me say, And even last year, I flew into Maryland to buy a vehicle, and it was interesting because I saw that the finance manager, it was a female, and then the sales manager was a female, and they were running the store even though it was nighttime or whatever. But I thought that was like amazing. Like it seemed like they were respected and they just had like a close bond. Like it was, and I was just like, okay, so maybe this was just my area. That was my experience, here in the deep South. But so I was just like, well, it could be different for other people, but I got my behind kicked. I did. And I was glad to exit when I did. I was glad. It made me shift my whole entire life, my values, my priorities. But I feel like I felt like God was shaking me anyway. So it was time to go because I saw a vision. I saw a vision of something different. I drew it on a piece of paper, and I was like, and the crazy part is I got a promotion, and then God moved me right on out of there. Like, he put me in a big seat, and it was like, oh yeah, this is going to be good, God. Yes, I could see this. And I did not know that he was about to work. He was about to work in the way that he did. Like it was like a sudden move, and I was just like, well, God, I don't like the way that you moved like this. Like this didn't go well for me. But no, it really did. It did work out for my good or whatever. And then I think that the season that came next, which, sometimes we have to know how to, because we can start something new and like, oh yeah, I want to do this, and oh, this is going to happen if I do all of this. It's like, the whole faith without work, and you can be working and you can have all the faith in the world, but if it's not your season, you need to identify the season that you're in so you know how to handle it. And I'm gonna tell you something, I can handle that next season. Because it wasn't a season of shifting into something different. It was a shift into something different, a new beginning, but there was a lot of unpacking. There's a lot of things that I really had to dive deeper into and deal with. That it was the baggage of the old season that I could not carry into the new season. And that was hard. That was really hard because it was a lot more. It was a lot more because I had already started working on some of it, but it was a lot more that was deeply rooted, and I had to deal with that. I really did have to because I felt like had I not deal with it, I was going to continue to receive those same type of disappointments in the next season, and that wasn't supposed to come along with me. That old life, like you know what I'm saying. Even my priorities and things that I valued, like that had all changed. So it wasn't going to look the same. Plus, I made a promise to God that the next half of my life was definitely not going to look like that part. I was not about to walk back into that.
That's it. That's it.
But that was hard.
Those mountains you were talking, and I've heard this so many times. And my example, I went through that with authority figures, right? I had a major issue with authority, and I didn't recognize it, and I didn't want you pointed out, right? Because I'm like, well, if I don't see it, who are you to tell me I got a problem with authority? I don't have a problem with authority. And sometimes it's so funny. We will argue people down. We'll tell ourselves that we're good. And God has got his finger on that one thing. As far as jobs, as far as, employers, I've gone through so many jobs, and the common denominator was me. My issue with following instructions, being told what to do, and authority. It all boiled down to that. And this thing about character building, and this thing about going around the same mountain. And we love to say, oh, God takes me from glory to glory. And it sounds fabulous, right? It's just like, oh, I'm just going to skip right along to the next best thing.
You're going to be right in that wilderness.
Works, you know what I'm saying? How God works. Lord Jesus, he's more concerned with who we are becoming. This isn't all about shiny things and being put on a pedestal and all of these things. And yes, he will set the stage, and he'll put us up there as a representation of the kingdom of God. Absolutely. He will use our lives and all of these things. But one thing about it, God is like, I'm not going to use you. I can't use you. You're not going to glorify me if you don't fix this internal stuff, if you don't let me deal with this, if we don't expose it and put it all out on the table, if you don't learn this lesson, you're going to go through it again. You're going to be at a different job. You're going to have a different boss, but you're going to be dealing with the same Charelle. You're going to have the same character flaws. You're going to have the same issues with authority. You're going to be the same person who doesn't necessarily want to grow. You're going to be the same stubborn person. So going around that and getting through. And I mean, I went from job to job to job, and it was a different type of job. And I had a different type of role, but it was the same situation. Twanje was just like, okay, I have an issue with authority. And I have a pride issue. Hello. Oh. So we think it's one thing, right? We think it's one area. We're like, all right, I identified it. I'm ready to move on. God, let's just go. We packing our bags. God is like, well, this is the root. This is actually the root. So I'm going to deal with this thing. And when I tell you, you want to talk about pain, you want to talk about, okay, God, I learned my lesson. I'm ready to move on. No, absolutely not. Please, he knows when we're sincere. He knows when we're going to get the lesson, and not only learn it, but there are people around us as well. That was another thing I had to learn. I'm thinking, okay, I've learned, let me move on. No, there's people watching you. There's people in your garden right now who you may not see anymore. You may not ever see after you leave this place, but they need to see your life. They need to see Christ in you. They need to see, okay, how are they going to get out of this situation? How are they going to deal with the boss talking to them crazy? Things that we may not see as a big deal. I'm telling you, this thing is not about, you said it in the beginning. This isn't about us. We'll be a tool. We'll be used by God and all of these things if we're in a position to do so. But this thing is not, it's not about us. There's so many people around us. And when we think of winning people to God, I think we think of it as one way. Hey, do you want to get saved? Do you know the Lord? All of these things, but it's just like, what about your life? That's what that witness right there, that testimony, people seeing that. Does your life draw people to God? Not just what you say,
right?
What people see.
Yep.
What people see. What does your life look like? So this whole thing, I'm telling you, you talking about moving to the next place, and God is like, no, I got to deal with this. It's so extremely important, because ain't nothing like getting to a certain level and thinking you good, and so stuff gets exposed about you.
When you see it, you're like, God, that is not me. That is not
it's
me.
It's not me.
Like, yes, it is.
No, it's you. It's definitely you. And I tried to deal with it back here. You know what I'm saying? God, he'll show
I thought
you,
I fixed it.
You know what I'm saying? That's the thing. I thought I fixed it. That's the problem.
Yeah.
We try to fix it. This God is like, no, I'm trying to deal with this stuff back here. I'm telling you, we pray for a promotion. We pray for the next big thing, and we're just not ready for it.
No, absolutely. And the hardest part for me is because, I had this conversation with God the other day, and this was me like, God, but I see all of this going on around me. I've been doing this. I've been doing the work. I've been doing everything that you've placed in front of me. I've been listening. I've been unpacking. I've been, going through this process. And why am I still here? And sometimes you just feel like you're in that same place, but you're not. But it's all in your head, in my head at least. I'm thinking like, because sometimes I feel like I'm moving forward, and then next thing you know, it's like, God, why am I here? What in the world is going on? But I'm doing everything. But I know that it's for greater good, and I know that there's so much, because every single time I go through this stage, it's more of so much more that I figure out about myself, and I'm understanding and I'm able to release, because I'm seeing things. And even while I'm on this side dealing with my past, even God shows me little things in my future, like, saying, even for the podcast, like every time, every Monday, whenever I bring, Sunday at midnight, when the next one comes out, I always go in and I share, because I feel like, oh, maybe I need to get the message out. Maybe I need for people to hear. Somebody needs to hear. I need to do the work. That's what's running in my head. And the Holy Spirit says, no, you've done the work. You've done the work. And then instead of chasing people, then allow God to bring the right people to you. Because a lot of times when we go out looking for people, we start to draw all kinds of people when we do it ourselves. But if we allow God to bring people, because he would bring those who the word is for, because we're just trying to pass out some flyers to gather a crowd. And it's just like, no, the message will get out, and the right people will find you. And so that's when I was just like, oh, I'm not doing that anymore. Like, I'm going to take my hands off of it, because whoever it's for, because we always want to, no, it's kind of like when someone says, well, who's your target audience? Who are you marketing to? And what we says, well, this is for, well, then God knows who this is for. And then I need to allow him to draw those people to it or whatever, because not everybody's going to receive the message. Well, they're not going to receive it because it's not for them. So then it's like, so now I was just like, okay, God, I listen, because how you think it's like, oh, I got to reach all these people. No, you don't. God will bring whoever is supposed to.
Isn't that something? Isn't that something?
Yeah, girl. It's just like I'm just learning, and I'm just trying to do things the way that the Holy Spirit is telling me that I need to do it, versus doing it the way that people says that we should do it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. We always feel like we got to be working and we got to do so much. But the only thing that I've heard God say to me in this season is that I needed to rest. And so I've been doing whatever it is I've been led to. And then I've been learning how to rest in between, because I'm always doing this, that, and this, or whatever. And there's no time of rest in between. And so now I'm just at a point where just do what God says and then just rest. Leave all the rest of that up to him. Yeah. Because it's something that he wants to do. He wants to show me. And as long as I keep trying to show him, it ain't going to happen right. It's not going to happen right.
It's that.
Yeah, it's definitely a learning lesson. So outside of, let's talk about you. Outside of the automotive industry, if you didn't go into the automotive industry, what would be your dream job? What would you think that would be?
Oh, honey, I would be either in front of the camera or right behind it. To be more specific, I am at heart a writer. I love creating. I'm a storyteller. I love movies. I love music. I love poetry. I love all things, anything to do with the arts. As a little girl, I mean, some kids would just kind of play with their dolls and all these other things. I was creating a TV show. I kid you not. Me and my sister put this show together, and we had a name for it and everything. And that was my mindset growing up, creating stories, creating characters, all of these things. And I always saw myself living in Hollywood. I kid you not. This is from a young girl.
Look, am I looking at myself in the mirror? What the world? I mean, like you're like living my life. What? Check this out. So I would, turtlenecks. I would put the turtleneck on. I would flip it, and I would have the elastic part right here, and the rest I would pretend it was my hair. So I had long hair, and I was on the red carpet. Wow. And I was either interviewing people or I was being interviewed. I like as a little girl, and
I grew up in the project. So all you can think about is getting up out of there for one.
Right. Yeah.
Two, I watched a lot of movies, music videos, all these things. I was this big dreamer and I wanted to do big things, but I love creating stories. I love creating characters. I love creating just these stories. I just love it. I can't think of any other way to put it. And I think what I thought I would be, I wasn't prepared. I didn't really have any set goals. I didn't have the resources. And I just I went into the wrong thing when I came to the university. And again, like I said, I feel like I'm starting over, or I'm just getting started. I really, really do. Who I am at the core, there was a lot of insecurities that God had to deal with firsthand. And I may be sharing a lot on this podcast, but when you are insecure about who you are, you don't love yourself, you don't think you're pretty enough, all these things, and you have this really big imagination, you start picturing yourself as looking different, being a totally different person, being from a totally different place. So rather than loving myself and embracing who I am, I would fantasize a lot about being someone else. So even having my dreams and my goals and everything I wanted to be, Twanja, God had to really, first I had to come to him, I had to give my life to him. And you're talking years and processes and continual deliverance of just being insecure and hating myself, hating my body, hating my face, hating my past, everything about myself. And I didn't see it as hate at first. I thought it was normal just to, be a girl. We pick ourselves apart. No, it was to the extreme, honey. It was to the extreme to where I wasn't happy with Charelle. I didn't want anything to do with Charelle. I was just kind of functioning. And in my mind, I wanted to be someone else. That's a major heart issue. That's a major issue overall. So God had to really, really, really deal with that and bring me to the place where I'm okay with me. Not only am I okay with me, I really do love me. And I love how God created me, because there's no one else in the world like me. The world definitely doesn't need two Charelles. That's a big much. That's a big much. But getting to that place where I'm like, man, I'm dope. I'm dope. That's it. Because God, I'm a designer original. God created me to be uniquely who I am.
Yes.
I'm quirky, I'm loud, I'm funny, I'm all of these things, but that's how he made me, and that's okay. So getting to exactly that place and knowing who I am, now I'm back. Like, no, I want to go back to being in front of the camera. I want to go back to talking to people and writing stories, and I want to create a show. I want to create movies, all of these things. So going back, you know how us talkers are, we get off course, but
that's okay. I digress.
Charelle, who Charelle is, what I would be doing, honey, I would, you talking about a network, honey. Bump BET. I'm talking about a network, a place where people of all races, not just Black people, go and create. And it's okay to dance. It's okay to sing and write songs and be free and create shows. Yeah. Watch shows that are clean, have great content, even Christian content that isn't corny. I'll say it. Yeah, you can edit this. You can edit this if you want, but I think one of the things, it just shows some of the things that irritate us the most. Sometimes it's like, God is like, okay, well, why don't you get out there and create
exactly something? Yeah.
It's a lot of stuff, that I see. I'm like, this is the corniest movie I've ever seen in my life. What do you mean? Nobody talks like that. Come on. You know what I mean? Like, you can be saved and still be, like, come on now. You ain't got to be a cornball. So those are the things. That's me at the core. I love it. I absolutely love the arts. I absolutely love anything creative. That's me.
Listen, I think that you and I might be twins or something. It's so crazy, right? Let's just rewind all the way back. Let's rewind.
Unpack all of that.
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, at some point, I think this was probably because when I worked in the automotive industry, like people really just like tore me down, what I'm saying? And I talked about this, and I want to leave it in the past, but I think that sometimes it's okay to kind of just bring it up a little bit, But I dealt with a lot of racism, and that was hard for me. And so, you know, it's like the first 2.5 years I dealt with that, and no one stood up for me. Like, you know, no one stood up for me. And so that was so hard. That was really hard for me because I felt like I was only someone's horse. You know what I'm saying? I was just working for them. And then at another point in my life, I felt the same way that you did. This was probably like my second, almost 3 years in the automotive industry. And I started feeling a certain type of way about myself. And so I was feeling like, you know what I'm saying, I wasn't good enough. I wasn't pretty enough. And I think it was just like relationships over the years, and they had just caught up with me, and I never just dealt with it. I couldn't see my true identity, you know what I'm saying, basing off of what other people say or ugly things that people had said to me, or dealing with these old ratchet women out there who always wanted to fight me over some dude. Like, are you kidding me? Seriously. But anyway, I'm not even gonna talk about that. But, you know what I'm saying, the calls on your phone, on my phone, you know what I'm saying, people just, I'm like, what in the world, you know? And so I think that it all caught up with me. And at one point I was at the place where I was so unhappy, like mentally broken, like, and I remember every weekend I would go shopping and buy new clothes. And so I felt like, okay, well, if I look good, I feel good, you know, and I would always get my hair done because my sister's a stylist. So I could always pull up and get in her chair, you know? And so I would do that. So I always made sure I had my hair done. I always bought new clothes until I realized that, hey, I'm spending like $1,000 a month buying new clothes. Like, wait, hold on a second. This doesn't make any sense. Although it's not a whole lot of money, but it's almost like, okay, what? Why? To me. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Take that back. Okay, that is a lot of money. And it was like, why? What in the world's going on with you? And it's just like the 1 week, and I'd go to the mall and I'd be buying some new clothes for the week, and then I'm back at, okay, I'm still not happy. And then it's just like the next week, it's like you buy the clothes, and then, but what? You're still not happy, so it can't be clothes. Yeah. And so it's just like I was doing it for a while, and then I started trying to make these changes and stuff like that. But the changes I was making was not it was external, not internally, and that's where the work needed to be done. Yes. And I had let people just say things. I remember this guy said to me, he said to me, and this wasn't even a guy that I was interested in. He was trying to hit on me. And then, oh gosh, he said to me that I normally, he was like, I don't go for the girls that are like Beyonce. You know what I'm saying? I try to go for the girls that like almost like less than, like, you know what I'm saying? Like yeah.
He thought that was a compliment?
Yeah, I'm assuming so. And I'm looking at this like, I'm not going to say the words that I would have used back then or whatever like that. Listen, I didn't give him the time of day, but he was just one of those type of people. And then he had a woman that he was with or whatever. And I saw them out, and I was like, you're right. I saw them like, you're right. You don't go for the Beyonce.
I've seen what you're type.
I shouldn't laugh. God, forgive me. Forgive me, God. But, so anyway, it's just like, you know, people just had dumped on me over the years, like so much negativity, and it was so hard. And it was just like, just dealing with that, but not dealing with it. You know what I'm saying? All you hear in that industry is, you know, you have to have some thick skin. And well, I don't want to have this thick skin anymore. That's not ladylike. It's not a good look for me. Like, I don't want to, because you don't know what kind of toll that it's going to take on you. And then on top of that, we heard those stories of the people who dropped dead, like going to their car in the showroom, you know, that type of stuff. And you're like, really? People don't realize that kind of stuff. Well, I mean, some of that is the poor eating that people do in automotive industry. Poor eating, the long hours, because man, sometimes I was working like, we had to be at work at 8:30, and sometimes we didn't leave that place till like midnight. Like some of the stores that I worked in were like late stores, and so people would never come in until in the evening times, and we would be there all night. And then at some point, I worked at a dealership. I would work at 8:30. Well, when I went into management, it was real crazy, because at this point we never knew what time we were going to leave. And I remember working on my birthday and leaving like 11 something, 12 midnight, and then just, you know what I'm saying, and being at work at 8 o'clock in the morning, and then you're leaving at midnight. Like, those were some, especially when someone was on vacation and you had to work the whole week. I know I gave them a good 65, 70 hours in a week. And that happened a lot. And so it's just like, yeah, that's not the life that I really want to live.
It's
And so
not.
I'm going to tell you something that while you were talking, you're right at the age. You're at that same age when my shift occurred. At the exact same age when God shifted me out. I was counting and I was like, let me see when I left. Yep, that's the exact same age when God was moving me. And the thing is that when you say, the BET and being a creator, I am a creator. Like I have crazy ideas. And I'm so thankful that God allows me to explore those ideas. Like now, even now that I work in real estate, I'm still able to write, so I started writing for a Sheen magazine. And then, I really enjoyed it because the doors opened for me and I started to meet a lot of different people, a lot of people that were connected, celebrities. Like, I wrote an article on Mariah Carey's hairstylist. I wrote an article on Beyonce's hairstylist. I wrote an article on one of the Tyler Perry stylists that does for his network or whatever. And so it was good for me. It was good because it was just like, I never knew that. I wrote an article on Michael Jackson's family, security. And he told his story of how he got introduced to them and what that life was like. So it was just like, I was able to see other people dream big and see how God opened those doors for them. And that just made me realize that God could do the exact same things for me as well. And when you mentioned BET, I'm going to tell you this. So I have this mentor, right? He's a New York Times bestselling author. And this was some years back. So, I love writing and whatever. So I linked up with him and, he became my mentor. So, of course, he allowed me to see the business and everything that he was doing. And at that time, he was like shifting into films or whatever. So, man, he gave me this real big assignment. I'm going to tell the story because I don't think I ever just openly shared it with someone. Okay. I know I wrote it in my book. But what was my first pitch? I was on this. Gosh. Okay, so this. Okay, I'm gonna have to share it, but I'm gonna just go ahead and share it. I hate to ruin it, but I'm gonna go ahead and share it. But I was on this webinar with a friend of mine, and he said, "Hey T, I'm on this webinar with Michael Elliott or whatever. He wrote the screenplay Just Right." And so he was just like, "Here's the link, jump on or whatever." And I was like, "Okay." So I got on. Two of my friends were on. And so I hit my mentor up and I was like, "Hey, I'm on this webinar with Michael Elliott. You want to get on or whatever?" And he said, "No, but I want you to get Michael Elliott's information and set me up an interview with him." And I'm like, "What the hell? Like, how in the world am I gonna do that? Like, I'm just on webinar. What do you mean?" And so I said, okay. So of course, I was at a young age, a very young age or whatever like that. And I was just like, I wanted to see how far that I could go. Like, I wanted to see what God was going to do with my little bit of faith. In my creative thinking. So I wrote this crazy pitch, right? It was so crazy. So first of all, I had to track them down or whatever. And I don't know how, but I'm really good at tracking down people. Like I'm really good. Like I feel like I'm a bounty hunter. I can track people down. And so I sent this email. Her name was Allison. That was his sister's name, Allison. And I wrote this story from one of the stories in the Bible. You remember the time when Jesus came into town and in the town center started saying, "Jesus." That story. So that's what I did. Michael Elliott. Okay, so that's the story that I wrote, right? Girl, how about it work? A week later, Allison was like, "Oh yeah, Michael Elliott's a big fan of Omar Tyree. They're from the same community from Philly." And he was like, "Yeah, he set up a time and date or whatever." And I was like, Jesus, look at God. Like, wow. Yes. And I was just like one of the, so while I was sitting there writing it, all I did was sat there and turned my ink pen around the circle, just kept flipping my pen. Like, God, what am I going to do? God, what am I going to do? God, what am I going to do? And just like, look, out of nowhere. So my next assignment was BET. And this was back when Deborah Lee was CEO of BET. Okay. Wow. Crazy, right? Yeah. So here I am, don't know what I'm doing, just trusting God, putting these talent together that, what I'm saying, using my own personality, but I'm being real and telling my own story, who I am and what I'm trying to do. And it's so crazy because people see you trying, they would definitely respond. They will. And that's the biggest thing. And that's what I try to tell people. Like, even though I have all these crazy stories or whatever, I don't think that I would have gotten anywhere. Like, a whole lot didn't come from it like the weight, but I felt like it was my stepping stone, and God was just showing me who I am in him. So, yeah. And you would think, like, as busy as Miss Lee was at the time, I'm talking CEO of BET. Yeah. And she took the time out to respond to me and say, no, I'm sorry. So this is what she did. Copy somebody else on there that worked in the staff. That was a writer that was doing, well, I don't think he was a writer, but he did like content or whatever like that. So when people pitched ideas or whatever, he was doing that type of stuff. Copy him on there, introduce who I was, and told him to take care of me. Wow. That's crazy. Exactly. Right. Crazy. Yeah. I like, listen, I don't even tell these stories. Like, I mean, it's just like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, I share it now because I feel like it gives people hope and faith or whatever like that. But I don't do it for like, oh, you know, I've done this, and that. No, I've done nothing. God has allowed me to have, it was faith in my trust in God. You know, that's how I kept going and whatever. I remember one time, let me tell you something. I'm like so crazy with this stuff. I remember I was watching a TV show, right? And I saw this guy on TV and I was like, hey, I'd like to meet that person or whatever. He seems like a really nice person. So this was when MySpace was back in the day, you know, or whatever. Yeah. Yes, exactly. And so I remember sending a message on MySpace, introducing myself and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, hey, I saw you on TV and I thought you was a pretty nice person, whatever. And I could tell that he had Christ in him. You know what I'm saying? You could tell he was different, set apart from the other people. And listen, this was back in 2007, maybe. No, this is crazy. I'm watching TV. I see someone. I said, oh, God, I'd like to be friends with that person. From 2007, and this is 2022. Friends. Oh
my God.
Friends, like not just friends, but family friends. Wow. Like, you know what I'm saying? Hey, I'm gonna take a flight and come to your house. You know what I'm saying? And stay for a couple of days. That's you know, that kind of stuff. Hey, I'm gonna be in LA or whatever, hanging out with some friends or whatever. Let's like family friends, that's like family friends. And so it's just like crazy how I would just say, but God, I just wanna, and then next thing you know, it's like, I was like, okay. Wow. And I'm not telling anybody. I'm let me just put this out here. Like, God ain't no genie in a bottle. Let's just say that's that. Right. God is not a genie in a bottle. You don't get to rub his stomach and he just manifests all these things. No, that doesn't happen. But I feel like these people come into your life for a reason. Absolutely. You know, and so I have a whole bunch of crazy stories. I have a whole bunch of them, but I'm not gonna put it all out there. But I mean, just amazing what God can do in your life just by just saying, just trusting and believing in him. But I think if it's in your path, I really do feel like God will open those doors up for you.
Absolutely. Especially when you prepare. That's another thing, preparation and knowing God knowing that you'll know how to handle those things. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? In your heart, your motive. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, if you're going to do this for my glory, even if it's a friendship or, you know, a job or working with a certain person, it's just like, God, okay, I've proven myself. I can be trustworthy with this, what you give me. I'm not going to blow it. I'm not going to get up here and try to glorify myself. You know what I mean? What do you want me to do? And having that heart to please him. Absolutely. Why not? Why not? Yes. You know what I mean? He's not going to withhold those good things from us.
Yes, I love to say that. That's my saying right there. He will not be like, God, I know you won't. I know you won't.
I know you won't. So yes, this is what I want next.
I do feel like sometimes I think about this a lot and I try to hold on to this. I feel like the exposure to things that God allows to happen in our life, or the things that God show us, or sometimes he gives us a little taste of it. I feel like that's God is showing us what is to come more in the future. Like, this is what it's going to look like. Because when I worked in the automotive industry, I'm going to tell you this. So I remember this was like six months in, or a little bit past 6 months in. And I remember seeing people were making money, like, you know what I'm saying? And more money than I had made, you know what I'm saying, at that age. And I wasn't making that kind of money, you know, and I always saw what other people were doing. And I was like, man, gosh, God, I'd like to have, be in that and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or when you see people at the top of the board and they were salesman of the month or in that category or whatever like that. And hey, that's a good feeling and you want to see yourself recognized and stuff. And you want to get some bonuses as well. And so I would always see people and I wanted to see my name at the top of the board because I felt like I worked hard and I was good enough. And listen, and I knew that. And sometimes I would go to my manager and say, hey, listen, I want to sell. This was in my first 6 months. And I said, you know what? I want to sell 20 cars a month. That was like a big thing back then, a long time ago, early 2000s, stuff like that. Because some dealership, they sell, you got people sell 40, 50 cars a month or whatever.
Absolutely.
And so in my area, when people hear you selling 20 cars a month, that gives you a little buzz. And like, people are like, start talking about you and want you to come work for a dealership. Man, I couldn't get people off my phone. Like it was always someone wanting me to come and work for them. But again, all they see you as is their horse. That's it, because they know that you're going to make them money. You have to be smart with it or whatever. Yeah. And so that's what happened for me. I started like chasing the money because I want to get them top dollars or whatever. And I remember one year, when I first started and I had this big month, and it really wasn't no big month because people were making way more money than that. But it was the first time that I had made like 11 grand. And I was like, okay, God, I like this. And so, and I felt like, okay, I could see myself doing this more, saying, I want to see some more of this. That's exactly what I was saying. And so I feel like, so exactly what it takes to get to that point or whatever. Yeah. And I felt like God was just showing me what was to come, what was ahead of me. You know what I'm saying? I always felt like he always showed you before it happens or whatever. And I felt like that's exactly with God. And that's how I feel about every last time I had those interviews with BET, with MTV, with all those places or whatever that I was able to set up on my own, even not on my own, but me and God, together, with God. But then, I was like in the back, just trying to hide behind him and like, God, you go first. And then I'd be right here. But I just feel like that was him just exposing what was to come. And that's how I felt like it was in the automotive industry when I start hitting the number, when you start seeing those things, and then you're just like, So then when you see 20 grand a month or $25,000 and you're like, yeah, God, I kind of like this a lot, and like, especially when you've never seen that and you're like, okay, God, 25 grand. What am I going to do with this? Oh, settle down because this ain't about you. You have to realize that kind of stuff. But I feel like God always give you that taste first before he brings it all, forth like that. So,
well, let me tell you, I'd like to take $25,000 right now.
Well, it's definitely a nice
put it on a plate and I'm going to lick it. Y'all might want to edit that. Y'all might want to edit that. Let me tell you something. Girl, listen, I just had this conversation with my friend. I went home and got my hair done. You see, I'm back black. I just had it like red and blonde.
Oh,
and
wow.
Stuff. So I'm doing my girlfriend's hair, and I had told her my mom had just gotten her door shot up. Now, again, I'm from Centerville Projects, about 12-minute drive from East St. Louis. Wow. And it's so funny how people glorify people who grew up in the suburbs and they all, had this great, they tend to glorify these rougher neighborhoods. And, oh, you from the hood, you from this. Ain't nothing good or fun about it. But I was telling her, I said, sis, I'm so tired of feeling like I never have enough money. No matter how many, let me be very clear. No matter how many cars I sell at Volkswagen, no matter how much a manager glorifies me or praises me, oh, you're at the top of the board, it still won't be enough money for what I desire to do. Let's be very, very clear. What I desire to do, not just for Charelle, but for my family. I want to move my mom out of her place. She's been in the same place since she was a little girl. She's been in the same area. And I talked to her today. She said, I worked hard all my life. And she said, I have nothing to show for it. That breaks my heart. Yeah. So when you think about, and I know money is, you need the money. It's just like, man, God, if there is another way that I could do what you've called me to do. Like really do be myself, whether it's selling cars, and that's going to be temporary. But like, God, I'm so tired of feeling like I never have enough. I'm so tired of feeling like I can't take care of my mom and my, they can't call me if they need something. And again, how many cars do you have to sell before you can move? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just going to be my life forever. So just that feeling of never feeling like you have enough. And I didn't mean to go this way, but you were talking about $25,000. I'm like, 25 G's, 1 month of that. You know what I'm saying?
But no, let me tell you,
get my mom right now.
let me tell you how that setup goes. Okay. So let me explain that. So there's a big difference in that from the 11,000 into 25,000.
Yeah.
So, so when I first made that $11,000 and now I wanted more of it, right? You know what I'm saying? So then you start chasing after money and it's more of, you're not chasing after God, you're chasing after money. And it's just like Dr. Miles Monroe had to say, and I love to throw this out there, love to tell it. And he said, whatever you chase, you'll have to continue to chase it because it'll continue to run from you. So now you're chasing after that money every single month and you're trying to get it. And then you lose yourself chasing after that money. That 25 grand. So that was the 11,000 was in my old life. The 25,000 was in the new life. And this was where God, you know what I'm saying? It was, and I knew it was a God moment because it was all the way that life had changed and started coming together. And so it was, so the Holy Spirit told me this, and I'm still trying to process all of this. And when you said that you need this, so this is what the Holy Spirit said, you don't need money. Money needs you. And I said, hold on a second, because the way my bank account set up, God, I looks like I need some money. And God's like, no, you don't need money. Money needs you. And I said, please explain this to me, because I need some understanding, some clarity. Help me, God.
Not you went Kevin Hart on the Holy Spirit. Like, what? Hold on.
Please explain it to me, God. So listen, that didn't cross my arm. So anyway, and then the Holy Spirit says that, you know what I'm saying, that God needs you to be a vessel so that the money can get into the earth, so it can go where it needs to go. So the money needs you to get where it needs to go, whatever, not you chasing money because you need it. So when that time comes for God to trust you with that responsibility, and not just 25 grand, because it's not a whole lot of money, but when we start shifting, we start noticing, oh, that ain't a lot, not being arrogant or anything like that. But God has so much, and he could use us for so many things when we let go of what we feel like we need, because he said that I'm Jehovah Jireh. I'm your provider. You know what I'm saying? So he knows what we need. And I feel like when we stop relying on ourselves and on our own ability, and we become reliant on God and what he can do, and we trust him. And so then he started doing those things. But I feel like it's a part of that process. And that's when I said that I had to learn to let go of those things from the old or whatever, because the biggest part for me, and you know this is scripture, y'all cannot pour new wine into old wineskin. So that old wineskin needed to shed, that old mindset needed to shed. I had to let go of those things so that God can move me forward or whatever like that. And so I could see a lot more of that 25,000 manifesting, and I'd like to see some of that $100,000.
Hey, come on now.
Let me taste and see, God. Let me taste and see. I mean, that's what you said. Let me taste and see.
Taste and see. I like the play where somebody told Medea money doesn't buy happiness. Medea said, "I sure like to find out." I'll be the judge of that. Thank you very much. Child, please. You know.
And Charelle, you know God gonna get us now. I'm just kidding.
Listen, God, let's talk about it. God, let's talk about it tonight, as a matter of fact.
You know, hey, the doors is wide open. It's so funny. But yeah, it's like a big transition or whatever. And I believe that God is gonna do what he promised to do in your life and in the life of your mom. So I know that God is never going to leave nor forsake you. And I know that he hears your prayer. He knows where your heart is. And that's the biggest part for me, because everything that I've done in my life, God knows the reason why behind it. You know what I'm saying? I've never been a selfish person. I always saw myself as selfless, and just like you know, it was always to help people, to help my family, to help others or whatever like that. And I feel like that's when God allows us to do those things. But I feel like God also have to bring some correction And especially for me, God had to bring some correction because a lot of those things I've been carrying burdens that I shouldn't have been carrying, doing things that I shouldn't have been doing, you know what I'm saying? And a lot of that stuff had to be cleansed, like, you know what I'm saying? A lot had to release. And so I feel like once this process, because of course, you know, I said I had to identify the season that I was in, and there's definitely to see a season of where God had to make some changes in my life so that I would continue to go, because I know how I easily become sidetracked on things. I would get caught up into other people's world, because at some point in my life, I felt like I was an enabler and a fixer. That nurturing spirit, you know, always wanted to help. And now I've seen so much, and it's just like, I don't think that this is right. Now it's more of, God, should I do this? You know what I'm saying? I need to be led, because I feel like sometimes people just come to take advantage or wanting to use me. And I saw that, like I saw a flashback of that today. And I was just like, God, why did I allow that to happen? You know what I'm saying? People were just getting over. And so it's just like, no more. So now it's just like, you need to be a little bit more mindful of the relationships that you carry. More mindful of the people that you allow in your circle, or be more mindful of the people that just keep coming with their hands out, wanting something. And no, there's no reciprocation or no reciprocity. So no, and no. So I think that because I've been so used to always trying to say yes or hear these sad stories and want to just help people, and God's saying yes. So now I'm at a place where I'm only allowed so many yeses. And those yeses are from God. So when I give out all of my yeses, and then when there's something that God needs me to do, and I've given them all, and God's like, hey, I need you to do, and you look and it's like, oh God, I don't have any more yeses, because I've given the yeses out to the wrong people, versus allowing God to show me where to, when and where to say yes. And so that has been, that's my shifting point at this time, because God can't give me all of this to do his will when I'm just helping all these people that are, and some are just being deceitful, that are trying to deceive me with a sad story. So now it's like, I'm learning to differentiate that type of stuff, and learning to trust God more, and not just rely on my emotions, feelings, because that's what people come to play on. Your emotions.
Absolutely. And don't tell them no for the first time the horns come out. You like, wait a minute. You forget. What about the other 11 times I said yes? When I was tired, when I barely had anything, you know what I mean? But that's how you know. And you said at the beginning, you know, you're in a season of rest, right?
Yes, a season of rest.
Girl, you go get a lot of it. Tell the folks no, or it's like, look, I got 2 more yeses left for the day. So if you don't fit in one of those, you won't get a yes from me. And being okay with that, because this whole people pleasing thing, and I promise you, so it's something else, and it's something else. And and I got to the point where it was just like, guys, you know, asked me one day, it's like, okay, if something happened at home, and I was like, God, I should have been there. He was like, well, what would you have done if you were there? And I really couldn't answer it. There was no productivity in that answer. I'll say that. Like, you couldn't have done. He's like, well, anything.
What was you gonna do?
You couldn't have done anything. You know what I mean? Anything more than what you can do now, which is probably real talk. Real talk. But this need, this constant urge to want to, I want to be there, I want to help. And there's nothing wrong with that. These tender hearts of ours, you know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with wanting to be there, wanting to help, and wanting to be this good, great person and help people out. But how exhausted you feel when you've done anything, any good thing that's outside of God, or something that God did say, is it really good? You know what I'm saying? Right. It's just like,
are you feeding your own ego?
You know what I'm saying? And that's it. It's just like, okay, if this was really for God, I feel like I wouldn't be this drained, like internally. Like my soul's tired because I'm always ripping and running and doing for others. It's like, okay, what did God tell me to do? And sometimes we scared to ask that question sometimes. We're scared to tell people no. It's like, oh, my favorite cousin won't like me no more. So last I checked, one person died on a cross for me. I'm not being mean. I'm not being ugly by telling you no.
I'm sorry, cousin.
You know what I'm saying? We talk about self-care all day long. You running around stressing yourself out over other people and their problems. For what? For what? God's like, I didn't tell you to do that.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I didn't say you were a bad person by not doing this or telling this person no. That's us. This is what we have in our head, and people will try to, manipulate us into, thinking, oh, you didn't. Well, okay. If you can't remember all the times I was there and I said yes and I did help, you know what I mean? You only want to highlight this one time where I'm making a decision to do something else, then okay. You showing me who you are. I've shown you who I am. Yeah.
I was just thinking about this while you were talking now. Listen, let's say for an example that God wanted you to have a global mindset, but you're still stuck trying to deal with the people locally. Not in a bad way, because I don't want anybody to misconstrue what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's more of you're sitting, okay, so God has an assignment for you, and he's like, Charelle, I'm gonna need you to go global. But you're holding on to family members that are pulling on you because they say that they need you, but God is saying, but Charelle, I need you to go global. And you're still stuck here in a place. Abraham, I think you need to go.
Wow.
Abraham, I think you need to go.
Yeah.
And leave Lot behind right there.
Yeah. Right there.
Right there. Leave Lot behind right there.
No, that's
but you have to think about it. You have to think about it in there, because what is God saying to us when we do those things? Because a lot of times we could be a lot further off, but we're carrying people. Oh, Jesus, here we go. Because God told me this. Quit carrying people into seasons that they're not equipped for. Like,
come on.
They're not supposed to go with you. They hadn't been through that persecution. They hadn't dealt with any of that stuff. God has prepared you for your next season. And you still trying to deal with the people that who ain't even ready to go. We always trying to take people up. The only person that's supposed to be elevating anybody is Christ. When the last time your name was Christ? I didn't see Charelle Christ. But it's the truth, though.
Yeah.
So listen, I got my lessons, a lot of them too. I was like, oh yeah, you're right, God. You're right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I mean, it's those tough lessons that you have to learn. And I feel like even like as hard as it was for me in the automotive industry, and as hard as the stuff that I had endured, I feel like those things, those bad times, I feel like God has taken those moments and has produced something totally different in me. You know what I'm saying? It was the pruning, you know what I'm saying? It was just, I had to see, because a lot of things and a lot of behavior that I've had has been something that has been like generational. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times we give because we've seen other people give. We do this because we heard this is what we're supposed to. And then it's just like we behave, you know what I'm saying? We do so much because it's learned behavior.
Yeah.
But then God is just like, I didn't teach you that. Like, okay, let's dismantle all that. Let's unlearn this and let me show you how, you know what I'm saying? And when we freely go with God and do what, regardless of what people think or regardless of what people say or how they perceive you or whatever, when we just follow God, it's just like he opens those doors and brings something new out of us. But we can't do that when we're allowing people to hold on to us. And,
that's it.
You know what I'm saying? And try to bring us down or try to make you feel bad for what you're, because the same God that I'm trusting should be the same God that you're trusting. The same God that says, I'm Jehovah Jireh, I'm your provider, is the same God that's your provider.
That's it. That's it. Our paths are different.
Yeah, exactly. But our God is the same. Yeah. Well, for some of us, I mean, for some of us, but I know who my God is.
Some of us.
I don't want to, because some people, got their own thing. And hey, listen, I'm not discounting anything or whatever they do. But I know who my God is. And I know who my
God is. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And the beauty sometimes about different paths, I learned this as well. Even when I first gave my life to the Lord, I had this group that I hung out with, right? Mm-hmm. I for the first time ever, because I didn't have a lot of friends growing up, I had this clique. I had this core group of people I hung out with, and I gave my life to the Lord, and I started going to church more. And it was one of those things, I'd be sitting in church, I was like, man, I gotta, even friendships, she's like, man, I gotta break up with such to such. I gotta break up with Pookie now. I gotta tell them I can't hang with them no more. Let me tell you something. There's beauty in people coming to you first. Mm-hmm. Like, it was some folks I didn't even have to have the conversation with. Like, they like, look, you all weird now. You going to church. Don't call us no more.
Oh,
I didn't have the, hey guys, we're going in 2 different directions. I need to blah, blah, blah. I didn't have to have that conversation with some people. And real talk, at first I hurt my feelings, but I was like, well, shoot, that's save me some time. I don't care. I don't know. Folks will stop fooling with you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's just like I'm on God's business right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that I don't love you. I can't name one person that I hate or I don't have love for. Folks will stop fooling with you, even in the body, in the body, because you want to talk about seasons. We got seasonal relationships, seasonal friendships. People grow apart. It's not that we don't love each other. It's just like, we on 2 different ways right now. Like we doing 2 totally different things right now. You over there doing your thing. And when I run into you, it's all love, but we can't kiki and kick it every day. Yeah. When I tell you, I have a best friend. This girl moved away and got married and had 3 kids. Do you think we can be on the phone every night like we used to?
No,
like
absolutely not.
Our friendship, we would be on the phone. We would be together every single day, Twanja. And when I tell the dynamic, it's changed so much. But again, I can call her today and we pick right back up. But there are certain things that I'm doing in my life right now that I can't talk to her every day. Right. I can't, you know what I mean? There are some things we don't really have in common anymore. Our conversation is different. So much has changed. There's still love there, but our relationship, the dynamics of it is changed so much. Yeah. But our paths are like this. People can't see over the podcast what I'm doing, but it's different. And in terms of some other people, you know what I mean? Some people will stop fooling with you, like I said. Yeah. And it's okay.
I think that we have to understand and just, okay, so when me and my best friend, when we first graduate college, we used to talk on the phone all the time and stuff. And, in the beginning of our careers, and then things shifted and then things became a lot more serious because we started going after goals and different stuff. And then some of them got married and had started having kids or whatever. And it was down to me and my last best friend. We just had this on one of my podcasts. It's my birthday celebration, had all my friends on. We talked about when we walked into 40 and what life looked like. And, saying how things have changed, in our relationships. But when you're friends with someone and sometimes that split comes, but it ends up the body comes back together again. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. Because you're on a different path, but sometimes the season is going to change. So I realized with my friends or whatever, like some are married, some of them have kids, some older kids, some younger kids or whatever. But at some point in time, when I become married, at some point in life, whenever God says it's time, I don't know what he's doing. I mean, I don't understand God, what you waiting on. But anyway, so it's like, we be having these conversations, but it's almost like, we need
to do a part 2.
Definitely. But when maybe when I become married, our relationships might grow a little bit more because now, we're all married. And then maybe when their kids, when their kids graduate from school and stuff, and then things start to change or whatever, we start to grow older in our older age together. You just never know what happens, so, and you sometimes you have to look at, and I had to say, okay, you know what? Things are a little bit different now, but it's okay because I know that at some point in time that we're always going to be friends. You know what I'm saying? Because we have a strong friendship. I know what that's like, and so I feel like even though I don't get to talk to them, but even though when we do make time to talk, I'm sure I'm probably going to spend like a good 4 hours talking. We're going to catch up, but we know that that's for the month or the next 2 months or something like that.
Absolutely.
So but I feel like we just have to go with the shift of things or whatever. But when we're really connected to people and they're supposed to be in our lives, it's going to work, and God will bring us back into a different season and where we can still be able to enjoy life together because those are lifelong friends.
That's it. And when you real friends, people that are really connected to you and are supposed to be in your life, they understand that. Come on now.
Absolutely.
We got 24 hours in a day, but baby, they don't look the same.
No.
How do you know?
Absolutely not.
You want to talk about the automotive business? My friend, she'll FaceTime me at work. She like, look, I know you're at work. I just want to say hi and I love you. And that's it. 2 minutes. You know what I'm saying? If that. And it's okay. It's okay. But those real relationships, folks know it's like ain't no love. Ain't nobody on Facebook dogging each other out. We just the time. Yep. Text me, you know what I mean? Inbox me, whatever it is. But when you grow and you mature, it's just like, come on now. That's like you don't trip off that stuff. That's like somebody not speaking to you at church. Are you gonna go home and cry about that? Like maybe that, you know what I mean?
That goes back to seasons and carrying people in the season that they don't belong into. Because listen, I can't go into a marriage with my friends. You know what I'm saying? I'm not a part of that. And then plus, God didn't equip me for that. He, He's preparing me for my own season of that. But I'm not in there. I can't match their season. And so that's what it's just like. You have to understand. And when we get to that point, we'll have seasons of whatever it is. God will prepare seasons for us that we'll share whatever bond and memory or whatever like that. And we just have to learn to accept that and learn to accept the seasons that we're in. We're on different journeys. And I think that sometimes some people may take that stuff to heart and don't really understand that it's nothing personal. You know what I'm saying? We're all on assignment.
That's it. That's the word of the night, assignment.
Yeah. I think that's a good ending note too. I think so. I think that's a good ending note. Assignment. You have to know when your assignment is up and until the next one. Saying you just wait until the next one comes along and then you just hop on it.
Absolutely.
I've been blessed.
Trust God. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Good job. Trust God. Mm-hmm.
It's like, I don't have to drive this. I don't have to drive this car. I don't have to fly this plane. I don't have to be in control. All I have to do is trust God and be willing. I love it.
Yeah, and trust God on your own terms, on your own level. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to trust God like you listen, someone listens to my story or whatever like that. It's just to give you some motivation and faith or whatever. You don't have to do what I did. You just have crazy faith and be like, all you gotta say is, I know God can do it. And come up with your own relationship with God and trust him in a way that you understand, because God isn't always your situation is not going to look like my situation, and the way that God brings you out of it is not going to look like somebody else's. So a lot of times we see people like, oh, God ain't going to do this and God ain't going to do it. And God is that. No, hold on a second. Because I done seen God do some crazy things that don't make sense to me. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Sure. That makes no sense or whatever like that. But if I stay in the mindset of God owns it all, like he owns this everything, you know what I'm saying? We can't sing that song, he got the whole world in his hand, when we don't believe he has it all in his hand. And so if he does, that means that God owns everything God is a part of. And so, you know what I'm saying? And we look to God for those things that we're asking him to do. Because I didn't see God just open up some doors and give some favor. And I was just like, God, I know this is you, because this wasn't possible. Yeah. I seen that shift in there. You know what I'm saying? You made this easy for me. You know what I'm saying? When I know that I didn't deserve this. Yeah. So, you know what I'm saying? You have to have some crazy faith. That's all I be like. Listen, I be doing some crazy foolishness all the time. And God be backing me up like he does. Like, I'll be like, God, I know. But I was like, man, this is crazy. Like, but I'm going to try something crazy this time and see how this is going to work out or whatever like that. You know what I'm saying? Because that's who I am. I'm unique. And I like to leave my mark wherever I am, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm going to give you some, that's why I came up with the crazy pitch, because I'm like, hey, I like to laugh. I like to be myself. Yeah. I want to make sure that they're going to remember me. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's dope. Hey, that's what the town center did, right? He would say, hey, I want to stand out because Jesus is going to see me today. That's right. Waves my arms. Exactly. Yeah. And who cares if the people don't like it? And people won't like it because they're going to be wondering, well, how did you get here? And I've been doing this work for 25 years and you came out here all of a sudden. Because God didn't just things suddenly. Absolutely. And God moves people who is after his own heart. Yes. And you don't know what I've been through to get to this point. Hello? Exactly. And even if I wouldn't have gone through anything, God was the one that got me here, not you. He chooses. He decides. Yeah, and you know what I tell people? Oh, you ain't mad at me. You mad at God. You need to take that on up with him, because that ain't got nothing to do with me. Because, hey, how did I get here? If it wasn't for the goodness of God, he gave me grace and favor and opened up this door. So you ain't talking to me. You talking to God. So you go and keep on talking. That's it. Exactly. Sometimes I have to say, you better watch your mouth because you're talking to God. That's what I'm telling myself. You better watch your mouth because you're talking to God. How else they got
it.
there? You might not think it's fair, but how else did they get there? Watch them out before. I always have to say, watch them out before you get us in trouble.
Yeah, no, that's good. Everybody hear that? Everybody write that down. Talk to me. Shut yourself up.
all the time. Listen, whenever I have crazy thoughts or when I don't think something is right and I hear myself coming against, listen, the spirit and the flesh be in conversation and one of them be like, shut up, because you ain't gonna get me in trouble. Don't. That's a bad thought. That's not right. And you can tell the difference. It's like they go back and forth, and I'm like, you ain't about to allow me to play with God. No, I ain't about to get in trouble with you. No, not
funny.
Today.
That's funny. You should do some type of series of you talking to the spirit and the flesh. Like,
listen,
this conversation.
I do be having some conversation. I just told someone the other day on a podcast that one day I had this court session, and I was late, and I was so angry. I was so angry at God, and I came home, right? And so normally when I'm upset, I know that I need to take a nap. I need to rest because I'm in a bad space and I need to hear from God, right? So he knows I'm mad now. I need to pull myself together with my attitude. And so I come home, right? And normally I take off my clothes and I'm going to take a nap. And so I sat there, and my spirit kept singing, my God is awesome. He moved mountains. I was like, listen, I'm not singing with you. Listen, this is me literally saying, listen, I'm not singing with you. And it kept saying, my God is awesome. And I said, listen, I'm not singing with you. And it kept going on. I said, I'm not singing with you. And then next thing you know, girl, I was singing and crying and went and took my nap. Back and forth like that. Listen, I'm not singing with you. It's just like the spirit moves. You have no other choice but to bow down to it. It's like, yeah. So that's why when one of these fools be talking talking trash, you ain't about to get me in trouble with God. You better
get me in trouble. You better shut
your
up.
mouth.
I love it. I love it.
I always know when they're against each other, and I do know when they become in sync. Because they are both I know when they're in the same space, you know what I'm saying? When they're in alignment. But sometimes one act a little bit crazy or whatever. This flesh be acting up.
The flesh. Yep.
Yeah. Always trying to get us in trouble. But the devil is a liar.
Yeah. This flesh, I tell you.
This has definitely been a really good conversation. I am so thankful that you decided to hop on and join me.
Of course.
I always tell people we put everything out there so people can get whatever it is that they need. I mean, some people may not, some people may, you know what I'm saying? But hopefully somebody walks away with something that's going to help them to carry them forward into their future. And I thank you for opening up and, sharing and become vulnerable, because the whole reason why I started this podcast is because a lot of times we aren't able to talk about things. And, for whatever reason. And so I wanted to create a safe space where, we can have open conversation and be ourselves or whatever, because, listen, I'm not ashamed to tell people my spirit and flesh be arguing and going on. And I'm not afraid to share how my conversations with God goes, because I don't always get it right, but this is my own personal relationship with God. And I feel like I'm on my own personal journey. And so,
yes. And you're going to help so many people, men, women, all ages, just stepping out there and presenting this. People want to see the real. There's so much fake in the world. Yeah. There's so much fake in the world. People want to see the real. People want to know, like, hey, I could come here and I can keep it real. I can be myself. I can admit that I don't have it all together. What? Yeah, absolutely. Yes. So this platform, I speak the blessings of God over you. You. And I pray that he continues to open doors for you, and he will continue to surround you with the right people in those right moments, the suddenlies, all of those things, and that your heart will continue to be towards him, and that you'll continue to seek him and go after him. And this is going to explode, honey. This is just the tip of the iceberg. You know what I mean? You're going to be able to taste and see what just the goodness of God and everything he has for you. I know it. I believe it. I thank you so much for the opportunity. I probably gave y'all about 30-40% of Charelle tonight because I'm tired, but I tell you, I appreciate the opportunity and a platform just to share a little of myself, because God has placed so much in all of us, and you and I. So This is just the beginning.
I think I'm gonna have to bring you back on because I feel like when that shift takes place and you move into that next season of your life, we definitely gonna have to talk about it.
We gonna have to talk about
We're gonna have to talk about it. Because I feel like there's going to be new beginnings. Well, there's always new beginnings. God takes us on this cycle, and and I feel like I don't know because, and I can't say because I feel like we have similar path, but I feel like those things that you've done in your childhood, because I remember everything that I believed in my childhood, how I journaled. I stayed in my room and I journaled, and I was always alone. I just sat in the room and journaled and looked out the window. That was my life, and I was so at peace with that. I didn't have to be in a big circle of people. I really didn't want to be bothered by people. It was just my safe space. At some point in my life, I didn't even feel like I had any talent. Like I always saw my sisters and brothers and they all had a talent. I kept saying, God, why don't I have a talent? Like, where's my talent at? And then all of a sudden, like, I just didn't even realize that, hey, I have this gift of writing or ways with words or whatever like that. And I guess it's because I speak from my heart. And so I just kind of ran with it. And I see God opening up these doors for me. And I feel like, you know what I'm saying? I feel like the automotive industry is just your stepping stone. And when that right season comes, and for me, when I found my right season is when I had had enough. I felt that tugging and I was just like, God, listen, I am tired. Like I had enough. And then I saw
tired.
I saw the vision and I drew a picture of it. I mean, I was like literally eating lunch one day in office and I saw something in my vision and I drew it in the picture and I was like, God, what in the world? And that's how I knew I was going to start a business, but I had no clue what. I didn't even know what my next direction was going to be. And I just sat still. And even still, I still feel like it's only like the tip of the iceberg. Like I feel like there's so much more. Like this isn't it for me. Like I've been, because I'm just this, and this, I feel like it's all going to come together. And it all links together. So I feel like when you pull that, I feel like you're going to know what's going to be next for you. And when you find that, those doors are going to be open and those opportunities are going to be waiting right there for Charelle. And then Charelle is going to be able to move her mom out of that into her own different place.
Yeah.
And still be able to take care of your family. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Joseph had more than enough, but God has to get you to that point so you can have that more than enough so that you can be able to, because you just never know. But you might be that Joseph now.
That's not the first time I've heard that. So I'm gonna receive that as we end this call. I've heard that on several times.
See?
So yeah.
Yep. Because that's where our heart is always. I always see it, you know what I'm saying? I feel like, a lot of times that nurturing spirit but we have to have that so that we could still be able to love our people, even when things are, tough or whatever like that. But God places us in position so that we'll be that responsible one to make sure that we give back and give to everyone what they need or whatever. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep. Well, I do thank you. I thank you and I thank you, God. And you know what? This is the reason why when you says give me a topic, I don't give people a topic because I always know that God is going to take over. There's no sign.
I was like, we didn't really talk about what technically we did. Yep. We kind of sort of.
I always thought the exact same way. Tell me about yourself. And there's always beauty in whatever people tell me. And I'm able to draw from it. Like I'm never prepared. Like that is just me. Like you give me one thing and it's just like, take over, God. Let's have that. And I enjoy it because it allows, because people are going to worry and wonder about, okay, what am I going to say? They're going to rehearse. They're going to try to practice. And that's not it. God wants true authenticity. And that's why we're here. Like, let's talk about it. And so that's why I always tell people, tell me about yourself or tell us about a little something about yourself. And the Holy Spirit just goes right from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, good job.
Well, thank you.
You did great. Yes. But yeah, I can't wait till the next time I'm on. Who knows what'll go on with me, girl.
You're right. I'll plan something and allow God to move and show me what I need to do. But definitely I will. But again, thank you so very much.
This episode is sponsored by the Twindle Foundation. The Twindle Foundation is a nonprofit organization dedicated to changing the wealth gap of African Americans and minorities by increasing homeownership. Did you know that 44% of Black families own their home compared to 73% of white families? A barrier to minority homeownership is student loan debt. Through scholarship, the Twindle Foundation is providing minority students with an opportunity to take on less financial debt. To give to the Twindle Foundation, visit www.twindlefoundation.org.